Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're extracting some truly timeless leadership and resilience lessons from one of the most famous historical narratives in the world, the ancient story of Joseph. We're going to translate his epic journey, literally going from a boy sold as a slave to becoming the prime minister of Egypt, into a modern masterclass for professionals. Because, while the context is ancient, these themes of betrayal, sudden career drops, and ultimate triumph, they are absolutely incredibly relevant to us today.
Think about it for a second. Have you ever faced a massive setback, an unfair accusation, or a betrayal that just completely derailed your life or your career? Maybe you were passed over for a promotion you totally deserved, or someone took credit for your work, leaving you stuck on a massive career plateau. It's a universal human experience, right? But how you respond to that unfairness, that's what actually dictates your ultimate success.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to quickly cover 1. Jealousy and betrayal. 2. Growth and hardships. 3. Accusations and waiting. 4. Grasping the opportunity. And finally, 5. Leadership and forgiveness.
Let's jump right into Section 1, Jealousy and Betrayal, and that famous coat of many colors.
We're starting with a classic case of family friction caused by unearned favor. Our story begins with a man named Jacob who had 12 sons, but he made a critical leadership error. He played favorites. He gave Joseph, who was the son closest to his heart, this special, brightly colored coat. It's basically the equivalent of glaring nepotism in a family business today. And to make matters worse, Joseph kind of lacked a bit of situational awareness. He went around sharing these grand dreams he was having, where everyone, including his older brothers, would eventually bow down to him. As you can probably guess, that special gift combined with those grand dreams, it caused immense anger, hate, and jealousy among his brothers.
And that jealousy didn't just stay as some quiet resentment. It turned incredibly toxic. Joseph goes from being the favored son with grand dreams to being the target of a literal murder plot by his own brothers. They see him coming one day and basically say, "Hey, here comes the king of dreams. Let's end his dreams today." They initially planned to kill him, but instead they make the horrific decision to sell him into slavery. The sheer scale of this betrayal is staggering. To cover the whole thing up, they go back and tell their father a wild animal killed Joseph, completely breaking Jacob's heart. That brings us to Section 2, Growth in Hardships, going from slave to manager.
Let's see how this disaster builds into an incredible story of resilience, because Joseph's response to this is where the true masterclass actually begins. He has hit absolute rock bottom. He's been stripped of his title, his family, his freedom. He's taken to Egypt and sold as a slave to a high-ranking official named Potiphar. Now, he had every right to be bitter and just give up, but he didn't. He applied himself to his work. The source text tells us that God was with him, and despite his enslaved status, his extreme competence and diligence got him promoted. He went from a lowly slave to managing Potiphar's entire estate. He literally bloomed exactly where he was planted.
Now, for Section 3, Accusations and Waiting, where we see integrity punished.
Just when he stabilized his situation and built up a respectable position, boom, a massive crisis. Potiphar's wife repeatedly tried to seduce Joseph, but Joseph possessed this unbreakable moral compass. Out of a deep fear and reverence for God, and out of respect for his boss, he righteously rejected her advances. And what was his reward for doing the right thing? A false accusation. In her anger at being rejected, she lied and claimed Joseph attacked her. It's a devastating reality in the professional world, right? Sometimes, maintaining your integrity actually gets you punished in the short term. So Joseph's reward for his absolute honesty was being stripped of his position once again and thrown straight into prison.
Prison is the ultimate career plateau. You are quite literally locked out of the marketplace. But even in this dark, hopeless place, God did not abandon him. And crucially, Joseph didn't abandon his own skills either. He kept working. He kept building relationships. While he was locked up, he correctly interpreted the vivid dreams of two fellow inmates who happened to be former officials of the king. He was basically networking in the dark, utilizing his unique strategic and interpretive skills even when he wasn't getting paid or recognized for them at all.
Moving into Section 4, Grasping the Opportunity, centered around Pharaoh's dream.
This part of the story brilliantly illustrates that no skill is ever truly wasted, because eventually those networking seeds he planted in prison sprouted. His reputation for solving complex problems reached the highest office in the land. Years later, the king of Egypt, Pharaoh himself, had these terrifying dreams that none of his top experts could understand.
Well, that former inmate remembered Joseph, and suddenly, Joseph is brought before the most powerful man in the world. And he didn't flinch. When you heard the dreams, he used his incredible strategic vision to provide a perfect macroeconomic forecast. Egypt was about to experience 7 years of massive abundance, followed immediately by 7 years of severe, devastating famine.
But Joseph didn't just point out the problem. He proposed a brilliant crisis management solution to save the entire nation. Pharaoh was so astounded by his wisdom that he instantly promoted him. Think about that pivot. He went from a forgotten prisoner to a strategic forecaster to the prime minister of Egypt in a single day. When opportunity finally knocked, Joseph had spent years preparing his character and his skills to answer that door.
And finally, Section 5, Leadership and Forgiveness, the ultimate test.
So the famine hits globally, exactly as Joseph predicted it would. People from all over the known world came to Egypt to buy food, including the very brothers who betrayed him all those years ago. Just imagine the emotional weight of this dramatic reunion. They arrive, literally begging for survival, and they have absolutely no idea they are speaking to the brother they sold into slavery, who is now the second most powerful man on earth. But Joseph, he recognizes them instantly. He has the absolute power to exact perfect revenge right then and there.
So the crucial point here is how Joseph frames this entire traumatic journey. He contrasts his brother's evil intent, which, remember, was rooted in jealousy and a desire to cause harm, with God's perfect outcome. Through all the pain, all the betrayal, the slavery, the imprisonment, God's underlying plan was maneuvering Joseph into a position to ensure the survival and salvation of countless people during this massive famine.
Overcome with emotion, Joseph finally reveals his identity. His brothers are absolutely terrified, naturally expecting execution, but instead, Joseph delivers this absolute mic-drop statement. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. He completely forgives them, no grudge, no retaliation. This proves that true leaders possess a deep emotional intelligence that allows them to release bitterness, recognizing that sometimes our greatest pains are just preparations for our greatest purposes.
As we wrap up this explainer, let's lock in these core takeaways. First, never lose your faith or your drive during those hardships or career plateaus. Second, remember that God's delays are not denials. Timing is everything. Third, true victors have the power to forgive. Holding on to bitterness is only going to poison your own success. And finally, no matter how deep the pit you are in right now, God can transition you from absolute rock bottom to ultimate success.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Whatever you are facing right now in your professional or your personal life, will you let your current setback define you? Or just like Joseph, will you maintain your integrity, hone your skills in the dark, and use this hardship as preparation for your ultimate success? The choice is entirely yours. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep growing, and I'll catch you on the next one.